Okay, now let's learn about minimum and maximum height and width. Because a web page can be viewed through displays of differing screen size, the content on the web page can suffer from those changes in size. To avoid this problem, CSS offers two properties that can limit how narrow or how wide an element's box can be sized to. And that's why we have two CSS properties, so min width and max width. This property ensures a minimum width of an element's box, so the width of the element's box will never go below the number you specify for minimum width. And max width, this property ensures a maximum width of an element's box, and this is the opposite. The element's box width will never go above the value you specify for max width property. So here is the example. So paragraph p selector, minimum width of 300 pixels. So the width for all paragraphs will never go below 300 pixels, and on the other side the width will never go above the 600 pixels because the max width property is set to 600 pixels. Okay, let's see what they say. In the example above, the width of all paragraphs will not shrink below 300 pixels, nor will the width exceed 600 pixels. Content, like text, can become difficult to read when a browser window is narrowed or expanded. These two properties ensure that content is legible by limiting the minimum and maximum widths of an element. You can also limit the minimum and maximum height of an element. So just like you can limit the minimum and maximum width, you can also limit the minimum and maximum height of an element. Minimum height, this property ensures a minimum height for an element's box, and on the other side, maximum height, this property ensures a maximum height of an element's box. Once again, we have a P selector. In the example above, the height of all paragraphs will not shrink below 100 pixels, and here is why. We have minimum height property set to 150 pixels, and the height will not exceed 300 pixels because we have maximum height set to 300 pixels. What will happen to the contents of an element's box if the maximum height property is set too low? It is possible for the content to spill outside of the box, resulting in content that is not legible. You will learn how to work around this issue in the next exercise. Okay, let's see the instructions. In style.css file, set the minimum width of the paragraph to 200 pixels. So let's find the P selector and let's set the minimum width to 200 pixels. After you have done this successfully, resize the browser and notice how the paragraphs box will no longer shrink below 200 pixels. But first let's run our code. Okay, next instruction. Next, set the maximum width of the paragraph to 800 pixels. So let's find the paragraph. So maximum width of 800 pixels. Now let's run our code. After you have done this successfully, resize the browser and notice how the paragraphs box will no longer expand beyond 800 pixels. In style.css, set the minimum height of the paragraph to 200 pixels. Okay. Minimum height 200 pixels. Update our code. And now let's set the maximum height to 300 pixels. update our code. We set all 4 properties. Now let's go there and inspect the page, and let's see how p elements behave now. P element has a minimum width of 200 pixels, maximum width of 800 pixels, minimum height of 200 pixels, and maximum height of 300 pixels. Let's increase the page width. Because of the Codecademy's page layout, we cannot increase the page more, so we can see when the paragraph gets to its full width. And let's just ignore this, resizing our browser so we can notice the changes in the height and width of the paragraph element. And let's proceed to the next exercise.